the first step out of suffering is to stop resisting what's happening. This can be very challenging for us human beings because when something happens that we don't like, we resist it. We have such a difficult time accepting it. When I'm not resisting, I don't suffer. I see what's happening as all part of the divine unfolding of this life, which I'm not always aware of. As long as you're in alignment, you're going to get exactly what you need. And sometimes that's much bigger than anything you can possibly hope for or intend with your mind. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about, and I had this idea of what I was going to share about, letting go of judgments and letting go of attachments and expectations and so on, especially when we do intuitive work, right? Because we want what we want, and it can be hard to not have what we want, and it can be hard to not get the answers that we're looking for, or to have to wait, or to have to learn something in a very painful way in order to grow and transform. And just as I hit go live, what the download that came through to me was to talk about what it means to live in the flow. And this is a much broader context, but it involves all of these elements. And it's such a foundational context for doing intuitive work. Okay, so living in the flow essentially means going with the flow, which is an expression we're all familiar with. The problem with going with the flow in mainstream consciousness is that oftentimes we betray ourselves. We betray our values. We betray what's important to us. We might betray what we really deeply want and deeply desire because we have some limiting belief about not being worthy, or about not taking up too much space, or not being able to advocate for our needs. So these things kind of all work together. Living in the flow means I am aligned. I'm aware of what it is that I want. I'm aware of what it is that I deeply desire. I'm giving myself permission to ask for, having my needs met, to advocate for myself, to take the actions that are in alignment with what I say that I want. So I'm in alignment. And that's all of those things. That's what alignment means. I'm being true to myself. I'm not saying yes when I mean no. I'm not overgiving, overextending, overexerting. This is something I talk about a lot, and especially when it comes to relationship with self. The reason I focus so much on the relationship with self is because the relationship with self is what creates the vessel, the clear vessel that can receive information from universal intelligence, that can assimilate that information and implement it into your life. Okay, so as an intuitive guide, if I didn't have a good relationship with self, if I was riddled with judgment, if I was riddled with resistance, if I wasn't in flow, I couldn't deliver clear guidance to myself, for myself, or to others. I couldn't do it here. I couldn't do it in one-on-one sessions or in my coaching containers, right? So it's really important to learn this concept of what it means to go with the flow, to live in the flow, to be embodied in the flow of life as it aligns with your value system, with what you say you want, with your intentions, with your deepest desires. Okay, so there's some of the foundation of that is to do the inner work, which I also talk about every week, to make sure that you're not lying to yourself about what you want, or you're not betraying yourself in the things that you take on and do and say and interact with. Okay, so this is very important. And so if you can, with integrity, say, I'm in alignment, now it's just a matter of going with the flow, right? Like I show up for the things that I say I want, and then I surrender the outcome to the universe. And this means that I have to live in a state of non-resistance. Okay, this can be very challenging for us human beings because when something happens that we don't like, we resist it. We have such a difficult time accepting it. Our automatic, unconscious, sometimes very conscious reaction is to stop, is to force, is to manipulate. What can I do to change this, to shift this, to have this go a different way, without really truly having the awareness in the moment, right? This gives us cause to pause and really contemplate. If I see everything as happening for me and in service to my highest and best good, and this thing is occurring, which is completely against everything that I've been manifesting, everything I've been hoping for, everything I've been deeply desiring, the answers I want, the messages that I want, if I can see it as, okay, what is this trying to teach me about the path that I'm on? Okay, how is this aligning me with the flow, or redirecting me to a flow that I haven't been in? Then I become more free in that moment. All right, I'm able to deal with my disappointment. I'm able to deal with my upset. I'm able to deal with my pain in that moment without suffering. You see, pain as humans is inevitable. We're going to experience pain. That's part of the human experience. I came here to understand fear and limitation and lack as part of this 3D experience. But when I do the work to align myself with what I deeply desire, with what is absolutely fundamentally true about myself, that I'm infinite and limitless and have access to the realm of infinite possibilities, then I align myself with what I deeply desire. And from there, I adopt a way of operating that allows me to be non-resistant. When I'm not resisting, I don't suffer. I see what's happening as all part of the divine unfolding of this plan, of this life, of this greater intention, which I'm not always aware of. That's why we want psychic readings or intuitive readings or mediumship connections, because we don't know what we don't know. And what we don't have foresight. All we know, especially when we're in a difficult situation, you could be, in a reactive situation, in a high conflict situation, in a stressful situation, in a situation that is creating a tremendous amount of fear. And as I talk about often, when we're in a reactive state, we don't have access to our intuition, right? So we can't see beyond our current circumstances when we are suffering, right? So the first step out of suffering is to stop resisting what's happening. Right? This is the first step. And this can be such a tall order, especially if what's happening in your life is highly chaotic, if it feels unsafe, if it feels like it's derailing you. So it's very important to, get support, to find a way to regulate your nervous system, to find safety and grounded energy within your own body, within your own environment, so that you can start to adopt this attitude of, okay, how is this serving the greater picture of my life? Right? How is this person rejecting me, for example, saving me from a potentially catastrophic relationship, or how is this me not getting this job saving me from a heartache or putting me on the path to actually going after something that I would rather do, right? Something that I deeply desire versus something that I'm just doing for a paycheck. Okay, so these are all questions that I want you to ask yourself, especially as you're preparing your questions. If you're here and you're coming every Wednesday and Sunday, or you're new tonight, it would be beneficial if you had some questions ready, if you knew what was on your heart, what you want to ask, and what you want to, the kind of messages you want to receive for clarity, because this will give you an opportunity to see where you might be resisting the answers that are already there, that are right in front of you. Okay, so living in the flow means, I'll recap this for you. I've done the work to be in foundational alignment with my essence, the truth of who I am, and what I deeply desire. These are very important steps. Okay. And now, once I've shown up in this way and I'm embodied in alignment, now I surrender my outcome to the greater good, right? To the how is the realm of the universe, right? So now I learn to live in the flow. And so I set out to do things, and sometimes they show up, and that's great. And sometimes they don't show up, and that's also part of the divine unfolding. Okay, there's no good or bad or right or wrong or mistake or right decision, wrong decision. This is the world of duality, and I don't teach that. Okay, contrast is important for us to identify which paradigm we're operating in. Am I in fear or am I in love? But it's not the truth in terms of what's available to you in this human experience. It's all part of the opportunity for you to grow and expand and to find that deeper meaning, find deeper inner peace within yourself, which is ultimately why we're all here. Every single one of your questions, which I'm about to dive into here in a moment, is pointing to the same question, the same answer. How can I find peace? How can I find fulfillment? How can I find lasting relationship? Am I on the right path? Is this the right thing for me? This is what we deeply desire. And we have access to that when we start to let go of resistance. A form of resistance is judgment. So if you are a judgmental person, I have compassion for you. I used to be one highly judgmental person, and it still comes up for me. So if you are someone who holds a lot of judgments about yourself, obviously that always comes from the relationship with self. And if you have judgments with relationship with self, you're going to project them onto others. This is a form of resistance. Okay, so pay attention. It's not just a matter of accepting what's happening just because it's happening. Okay, I want you to accept the things that are teaching you something. Okay, not the things that force you to betray your value system. Okay, that's different. That's self-betrayal, and I spoke about that earlier. This is not alignment. So the foundational work is to be in alignment. There's no self-betrayal when you're in alignment. And then when something's happening and you're notice if the tendency is to resist it because it's not what you wanted, allow it to teach you something. Okay. And lastly, the last thing I want you to notice is, am I holding any judgments about this? Do I have judgments about this or about myself? If I let go of my judgment, do I have an easier time accepting this, not resisting it, and allowing it to be part of the flow of what's naturally unfolding in my life? Learning to live in the flow is literally like, surfing the waves, right? You're just, life is kind of up and down, but you're sort of learning to navigate those waves with grace, with equanimity, with inner peace, and ultimately with implicit trust and knowing that it's all part of the divine unfolding of your life. And as long as you're in alignment, you're going to get exactly what you need. And sometimes that's much bigger than anything you can possibly hope for or intend with your mind. So trust that process and allow yourself to be in the flow and watch what happens. This is my wish for you and my wish for all beings everywhere.